You are listening to The Art of Sales. Everyone sells every day, and this is your source for conversational, real-world sales and prospecting methods that you are comfortable using and that get results. You'll help people buy instead of pushing them into being sold. Here's your host, Art Sobczak.
I was surprised to hear that there's a question that causes lots of accidents during test drives of cars by prospective buyers. And it's this. It's the salesperson asking, is this the type of vehicle you'd like to own? What? Yeah, it's true, according to car salesperson Jim Miller, who was interviewed in Douglas Rushkoff's book, Coercion: Why We Listen to What They Say. A question like that, preceded by the proper setup, creates a state of suspended animation that causes the mind to do strange things. And Miller, the author, says that first, the salesperson reinforces the prospect. He makes the potential buyer feel awful about the junker that he's now driving. For example, he'll say things like, how does the ride compare to your car? Or how do the seats feel? Comfortable? Just like an armchair? Then he asks the question. The question that car salespeople joke causes a split second of customer insanity. He says that the mind goes blank, the body paralyzes, the eyes get glassy and dilated. And you'd be surprised how many people have an accident at just that moment. And then Rushkoff says the power at work here is disassociation. With the car example, the prospect is already in the vehicle, but then is asked to own the same type of vehicle. So your present situation is reframed in fantasy, creating a momentary disassociation from the activity you're involved in. It would be kind of like me asking you right now, could you imagine yourself listening to this podcast right now? Think about that for a second. So according to Rushkoff, that's why so many drivers crash. He says it's a momentary loss of awareness during which the customer's defense mechanisms and rational processes are disabled. And he also says the technique is so powerful, it's in the CIA's interrogation training guide. Now, do I personally buy into this? Well, who might argue with the CIA? Now, however, the example that I just gave here was just one car salesman, granted, although he did add that the technique was from a popular training program in the car business. Now, what I do know for sure is that the process and techniques are similar to what I've been suggesting for a long time, and that is simply identify and embellish needs and pains and problems, and then we present our recommendation or solution. And then the next step is we ask for commitment. So let's look at the first part of that, embellishing the problem. So once you've uncovered a need area, by all means, resist the tendency that many salespeople fall victim to. And that is talking about their product or service. And we've discussed that here before, talking about your thing, right? Instead, you want to question more to get them to further visualize and relive and feel that pain. And then you want to exaggerate it even more in their mind. So with questions like, oh, how often does that happen? Then what do you have to do? What other problems does that cause? Oh, and then what? And what does that cost you? And then the next step is presenting your recommendation. This is where you talk about your solution. And again, we're talking about your result, not the thing. And use their words as much as you can. Because here's a little ninja trick. They're not going to argue with what they said. They can argue with what you say. And then finally, we want to ask for commitment. Here's where you ask the magic question that we just went through here that puts them in that state of stupor, or at least gets them to imagine owning and enjoying the results of your product or service. It's really sort of a trial close. For example, so how do you feel you would use that? What do you feel that would do for you? Would you see this as something that would help you avoid those problems in the future? How much do you think this would help you make or save? Now, their answers, of course, are designed to get them mentally taking ownership of what you sell. And that makes the final close a lot easier. After all, if they sell themselves, that's better than you having to do it, right? So think about these ideas, adapt them, and use them in your own situation. But just don't cause any car wrecks, okay? All right, hey, you know what time it is.
Your attitude will be iron. Never will, never fear. What they say is the art of the sales. Quote of the day.
That's right. It's time for the quote of the day. And today's quote is from author Daniel Pink. And Daniel says, people tend to believe their own reasons for doing something more than yours. So your job is more about helping them convince themselves to do something than for you to convince them of anything. So true, and applies directly to our point today. All right, hey, if you're enjoying and getting value out of this podcast, please pass it on to at least 2 other colleagues who would as well. Send them to our show site, theartofsales.com. theartofsales.com. And I want to give you hundreds of other free sales tips, and you can get those at my blog, smartcalling.com. And there's all kinds of other stuff there, as well as you can see how to get my free book mailed to you. So you can see all that at smartcalling.com. Thank you so much for investing your valuable time with me. Until next time, go out and make it your best sales day ever. I'm Art Sobczak.